A powerful low pressure system is currently moving ashore right along the Pacific Northwest at this time, bringing a heavy amount of rain throughout northern California, as well as heavy snowfall in the higher elevations of the Pacific Northwest. And if I were to continue to move forward, this same trough will eventually become our next significant Midwest snowstorm and will eventually lead to a quarter pattern throughout the eastern half of the United States. If I were to continue to move forward, we do see that the heavy rain should move into the San Francisco area by midday on Saturday, and we're seeing, of course, very heavy snowfall in the Sierra Mountain ranges of California at this time, and eventually this heavy rain should move down into Los Angeles and San Diego, I'd say by very late Saturday into early Sunday night. And of course, we're still seeing very heavy snowfall throughout the higher elevations of California and Nevada, and if I were to continue to move forward, we do see that right behind this trough we see a high level of cold air, and that's going to create a very unstable environment in the midsection of the country for this storm to continue to intensify as it heads further eastward. And we're going to see very heavy snowfall as a result, especially in the northern portion of the Midwest, where we do see that by the early Monday timeframe we should see the snow move into Colorado. Utah, Salt Lake City should get involved with some snowfall, as some of these areas in the higher elevations could experience feet of snow. And if I were to continue to move forward, and we eventually do see that by the late Monday timeframe we see a large and elongated band of snow develop based on the latest depiction of the GFS model. Now, the GFS model wants to take this storm a little bit further northward than the European model, which is very interesting. We're going to need to wait and see which of the two scenarios will be the more correct one, because we have a little bit less ridging with the GFS model just to the north of this storm, which is the reason why the GFS model is leaning towards bringing the heavier snowfall a little bit more northward into the Midwest, while the European model wants to bring the heavier snowfall a little bit further southward. However, what I could say with certainty is that we will experience a major snowstorm in the Midwest, as it seems like there's going to be just enough instability in the midsection of the country for this storm to attain a high level enough of convection to create a large area of snow throughout the northern Midwest. And we do see eventually that heavy snow should move into Minnesota by the early Tuesday timeframe, so you want to pay very close attention to that. And we should see the snow eventually could potentially impact Minneapolis, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska as early as the Tuesday to a late Monday timeframe. So you certainly want to pay close attention to that. And if I were to continue to move forward with the GFS's model's depiction of this storm, we do see that we have seen a shift in the forecast where now the GFS model does not want to bring heavy snowfall to the northeast as a result of the fact that it just does seem like the GFS model is leaning towards bringing that Arctic air far south enough to interact with that very warm and convective environment that exists in the Northeast. However, there's still uncertainty with the forecast because I'm going almost around 5 to 7 days out with the forecast for the Northeast. So there's still that possibility we could maybe see a shift where the cold air moves far south enough to bring some snow associated with the storm into Northeast. But as of right now, it seems like the chances are diminishing that we'll see snow in the Northeast associated with this storm, but it's definitely not out of the realm possibilities. We could see snow from this storm if we see enough cold air stay locked in place in the Northeast as we continue to head for more and more into the future. But if I were to show you guys what to expect beyond the 5th, we should see a cold pattern behind this trough, as it seems like there's going to be just enough of a northwesterly flow to bring that Arctic air further southward and bring colder and potentially a snowier than average conditions for the eastern half of the United States. As it seems like we're going to see a trough develop that could bring some snow to the upper Midwest, but we still need to see if there's going to be enough instability associated with the low pressure system to see if this Clipper system will develop. And since it's very far out in the future, it's hard to say for certain, but you should expect colder than average conditions for the most part as beyond, I'd say, January 5th for the eastern half of the United States, especially for the northern portion of the United States. So make sure to pay close attention to that. But the Midwest should expect a significant snowstorm that which could dump 6 to 12 inches of snow between the Monday and Tuesday time frame. So make sure to pay close attention to that. Now let's take a look at the European model. Taking a look at the European model's depiction of this storm system, we do see that a heavy amount of snow is occurring in the higher elevations of California and Nevada, and we do see the rain eventually move into Southern California by the early Thursday timeframe and into Friday, and we do see that eventually we should see a major snowstorm impact the Midwest, where we do see that by January 3rd, we do see heavy snowfall move into Nebraska as well as South Dakota, as you should expect the heaviest snowfall in those areas right around the late Monday to early Tuesday timeframe, and eventually this should move into the Minneapolis area, I'd say by the middle portion of Tuesday. And the European model does expect a more powerful storm to move into the northern Midwest, where we see the millibar pressure drop down to 991 millibars, which could mean that we could be in for stronger winds associated with this storm. And we do see the darker shades of purple within some of these snow bands, which shows that this snowfall could be heavy at times as well. So you want to pay very close attention to this. And in terms of what the European model expects beyond the 5th day, beyond the 5th of January, we do see that the European model also agrees that temperatures should fall below average for much of the eastern half of the United States, which again, while the European model doesn't really say anything definitive when it comes to snowfall, it still certainly could enhance the possibility you could experience a significant snowstorm if the conditions play out the correct way, since there, of course, temperatures are colder than average, and that could lead to a more unstable environment. But in terms of the timing of when you should expect the heaviest rainfall throughout California, Nevada, Utah, so in Utah you should expect the snow as early as tomorrow. The heaviest rain should be right around the midday on Saturday for the San Francisco area, and then eventually very early on Sunday for Los Angeles and San Diego. Based on the European model's depiction, the snow should move into the Denver area by the Monday timeframe, and of course should move into the northern Midwest by Monday and Tuesday. So make sure to pay very close attention to that. Take a look at what the GFS model is forecasting when it comes to snowfall associated with this next snowstorm moving through the west coast as well as the northern Midwest. You should expect a large area of 6 to 12 inches or so in places surrounding South Dakota, Minnesota, the northwestern portion of Nebraska, as well as Wyoming and the higher elevations of Colorado. You should expect a large area of 6 to 12 inches, and some of these snow bands could produce snow that's heavy at times, so that will create very dangerous road conditions, as you want to make sure to stay prepared for that. And we do see that even looking further westward into the higher elevations of California, you could expect potentially up to 8 feet of snow in some localized areas of the Sierra Mountain ranges, as we're going to see a continuous stream of moisture move through as an atmospheric river is moving through the state of California, and should bring that snow even further eastward as well into Utah, where the higher elevations of Utah could experience 2 to 3 feet of snow, Nevada as well, and the higher elevations of Arizona. And we do see that in the Northeast, mainly a lighter amount of snow is expected over the next 10 days. There could be a clipper system that may move through and bring 3 to 6 inches of snow throughout the Great Lakes region, but it's still highly uncertain, and I'll keep you guys updated if we do see any major changes with the forecast. Now let's take a look at the European model's snowfall forecast. The European model, for the most part, looks fairly similar to the GFS model when it comes to the snowfall forecast, but it wants to bring the heaviest snowfall further southward, and it wants to bring a little bit heavier amount of snow throughout portions of the Midwest, where we do see over a foot of snow, which is definitely different from what the GFS model is suggesting, but it still agrees that most of the west coast and the higher elevations of California and the Pacific North and the Cascade Mountain ranges should experience well over a foot of snow and potentially up to 8 feet of snow in some localized areas. And so definitely pay close attention to that, as we're going to need to wait and see which of the two computer models will be the more correct one when it comes to snowfall. Really all depends on how much ridging there will be just to the north of it to really determine how much further northward or southward the snow will move as this approaches the Midwest. So here's my snowfall forecast when it comes to this next major Midwest winter storm, which is likely to happen at this point. Should impact you guys between the Monday and Tuesday time frame. I'm expecting 6 to 12 inches. This is based on the fact that both the European and GFS model are forecasting a significant storm, and they both at least forecast at least 6 to 12 inches should fall within this general area. There could be some differences depending on how far north or southward this will move, but I'll keep you guys updated once we really iron out the forecast, which will take several days, but for the most part we got the gist of it that we should see a major snowstorm throughout the northern portion of the Midwest. So make sure to pay close attention to that, and we could potentially see a colder and snowier pattern build in the Northeast once this winter storm passes through the Midwest, and I'll keep you guys updated once we get more certainty regarding that pattern. But anyways guys, I thank you guys for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather related content.